Welcome to
Theories
of the third kind.
Welcome to Theories of the Third Kind. My name is Aaron. The other host that is joining me is Danielson.
Hello.
Now, before we start today's episode, we do have a very, very, very important announcement to make.
If you would like to support the show, you could do so by joining our premium subscription service, Supercast. For just $6.66 a month, you can join it and get access to our premium audio episodes and access to our entire back catalog of over 200 plus episodes that are all ad-free.
Or if you are a big baller shot caller and you ride on 20-inch blades on your Impala,
then
you can sign up to our video tier for $9.99 and get access to not only the audio, but also the video content of our episodes each week, which they are only accessible through our premium service. So to do that, just go to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, and right there in the front of the website or right on the front page, there's going to be a Supercast link. You click on it, it will take you over there to Supercast where you can sign up, and it's super easy to do, and there you go.
Or you can go to theoriesofthethirdkind.supercast.com.
Yeah, you can go to that as well.
Now, we know things are tough out there right now, so if you can't afford a premium membership, but you still want to help us out, you can do so by leaving us a written review on iTunes or Spotify.
That helps us out a lot.
However, don't feel pressure to leave us one. If you don't want to, that's fine. We just want you guys, girls, aliens, reptilians, Bigfoot, Sasquatches, Chupacabras, ghosts, Illuminati members, underground lizard people, whoever or whatever you are, to enjoy the show. Also, remember, our content is entirely human-made. No AI were harmed or used in the process other than the graphic, which is basic.
Yeah, the graphic, we just get the basic background and then we put it into Photoshop and design it ourselves. And that right there is the end of our announcements.
Nice.
Which, by the way, this is the second time we've recorded this episode, and it is currently 3:30 p.m. on Thursday because I made an error.
It's both of our faults. Because my laptop sucks.
The SD card that we used to record this episode previously, it was full. But it had just enough space to record that episode, which we did. And then I exported that episode on a computer.
My laptop.
And then I formatted the SD card and wiped it clean. Little did I know, I exported the wrong episode. I exported last week's, not this week's, because the Rodecaster Pro 2 has some weird numbering system that's not accurate at all.
And it's not in order either.
No. So you have to find the file. And I assumed it was right there. But I was wrong, and I deleted our audio.
And he tried all night to actually get it back.
Like 15 or 16 hours using recovery software to try to recover the audio from the SD card, and it didn't work. So now we are re-recording the episode. Not like you all care. I mean, you didn't even listen to the first one. So this is just us complaining.
Didn't even listen to the first one.
All right. So that being said, today's episode is over Lemuria.
Lemurs.
By the way, I just want to talk about the pronunciation of the word Lemuria. We went to the University of Texas in Austin and talked to and spoke with a grammar specialist, a linguistic expert, and said, how do you pronounce this? And they said, well, there's multiple different ways you can pronounce it, depending on where you live. But if I was giving a lecture over this, I would pronounce it Lemuria. So that's what we're going with. So if you have any beef with how we pronounce this word, you can contact that individual at the University of Texas in Austin.
We will not give out his name because we don't want to dox him and then get in trouble.
Yeah.
But he is at the University of Texas.
All right. So to start off this episode today, we are going to discuss what Lemuria is, the history of the concept of Lemuria, and then go into the strange facts and findings, theories, and of course, wrap it all up with our own personal thoughts and theories. So with that being said, Dan, you want to start off today's episode?
Nah, I already did it once.
Time to do it again.
Of course. So what is Lemuria, or also known as the Land of Mu?
So it's known as Lemuria or the land of Mu.
Mew, one of those.
Yeah.
Spelled M-U.
And they pronounce it either Mew, like the Pokemon, or Moo, like the cow. So we're just going to go with Moo.
All right. So in previous episodes, like Hollow Earth, we did mention the ancient civilization of Mu. Back when Atlantis was around and the Mu and the Atlanteans ended up getting into a thermonuclear war, taking each other out, yada, yada. The civilization of Mu, or the Lemurians, which they called some of the people, are believed to be completely extinct and lived on a continent called Lemuria. And that was said to be lost somewhere in the Indian and Pacific Ocean area.
Yeah. So it was this idea that flourished for quite some time back in the 1800s throughout the scientific community, but it was supposedly debunked later on. Now, this crazy thought of a civilization in a whole entire continent just disappearing or being completely destroyed was thought of as being like impossible, like that could never happen. But that all changed in 2013 when geologists uncovered evidence of a lost continent exactly where they originally believed Lemuria was located at. This discovery brought back many theories to the forefront again, but that begs the question: where did these ideas and theories begin of Lemuria?
Well, there are multiple different things said about Lemuria throughout history on when it started, when it was found, who discovered it. But the one that we found that started all, it seems, is back in 1864 when a zoologist and British lawyer named Philip Lutley Slater had written a paper called The Mammals of Madagascar while he was studying lemurs. This paper would then be published in the Quarterly Journal of Science as it talked about lemur fossils that could only be found in Madagascar, and then in India, and then some in Africa, but not really too many, or in the Middle East.
Philip then proposed that the only way that lemurs were able to migrate first to India and then to Africa from Madagascar was because of a lost landmass that stretched across the southern Indian Ocean in a triangular shape. This landmass, or this continent, that connected India's southern point, southern Africa, and western Australia, it somehow mysteriously sank to the ocean floor, and that is what supposedly Lemuria was this triangular landmass that connected all these continents. And that's how these lemurs were able to get on it.
Yeah, and at this time in history, land bridges were the most common theory on how animals and humans were migrating from one place to another, which allowed Slater's theory to gain such traction. Then other scientists and writers took Slater's theory, ran with it, and especially a German biologist named Ernst Haeckel. Haeckel started to publish his work claiming that Lemuria was what allowed humans to first migrate out of Asia and into Africa.
Yep. Haeckel also suggested that since humans migrated from Lemuria, that this may have been the very cradle of humankind itself, which he also called it, or deemed it to be, paradise. Now, in his publishings, Haeckel stated that there were 12 varieties of men, and the first humans to evolve from ancient primates did so on this ancient continent of Lemuria. So yeah, Haeckel kind of believed that humans evolved from lemurs.
Lemurs aren't really that big either.
No. Every time I think of a lemur, I think of a black-handed gibbon at the zoo, you know?
I always think of Madagascar. King Julian! Dude,
I've never seen that movie. Never seen it. All right, so we do have a map from the Library of Congress, which is supposedly a hypothetical map depicting Lemuria as the cradle of humankind, and it shows pretty much the continents and Lemuria, and then it has arrows depicting how the travel of humans would have been and how they spread out throughout the entire world from Lemuria. Excuse me. We'll post that up right here. And for anyone just listening, which it doesn't make sense, you can go to YouTube and watch us for free. But if you are just listening, you can go to theoriesofthethirdkind.com, click on today's episode, and you can see all the graphics that we posted today, including this map.
Correct. And if you look at the map, at the far left, you can see where Africa is. And then to the right of it is where Lemuria is.
Yeah.
Paradise.
In between Australia and Africa is Lemuria. Just a giant landmass connecting everything.
Now, Lemuria being what Heiko called the cradle of humankind, the origin of humans, lasted from 1800s all the way into the early 1900s, usually discussed alongside Kumari Kendam, I believe that's how it's said, which is what I'm going with, which is another proposed lost continent that disappeared in the Indian Ocean. Then a different idea, though, propped up when scientists discovered ancient human remains in Africa, which then suggested that Africa was actually the cradle of humankind.
Yeah, but not everyone jumped on that belief. Just because they found ancient remains in Africa, some still continue to believe that Lemuria was still the origins of humankind. However, with the help of Russian occultists, medium, and author Miss Blavatsky, the strange idea of Lemuria was pretty much kept at the forefront. She's the one who pretty much spearheaded it and continued to bring it up in talks and everything. And her writings were very influential at the time.
Do you have one? There it is.
The Secret Doctrine.
Which was
Blavatsky.
Published. Yeah, and that was published in 1888. Ooh, what's that in the middle? There's a note or something in there?
Oh, Theosophical University.
Oh.
Complete our catalog. No, thanks, bitch.
You know, I like buying used books just for the notes that are in there, like people studying it and all that, and the stuff they write.
Yeah, those are the best.
But yeah, The Secret Doctrine was published in 1888, which proposed the idea that there were once 7 ancient races of humanity and that Lemuria was home to one of these ancient races, the Mu.
Whichever way you want to pronounce it.
This ancient race, in her book, were described as a 15-foot tall, 4-armed, hermaphroditic. Is that how it was said again?
That is exactly how you pronounce it. Hermaphroditic.
Yeah.
Meaning they have a penis and a vagina.
That's right. They have both.
Cool.
And they flourished alongside the dinosaurs.
You imagine that? Dinosaurs didn't fuck with them because they had a penis and a vagina. We ain't gonna eat them. They're fucked up. Well, not really fucked up. I mean, I know there are hermaphrodites out there in the world. More power to you. Never met one. I figured they'd be like on one of those traveling sideshow circuses. Pay 25 cents. Come see a hermaphrodite.
They're probably all in Thailand.
Oh, Jesus. We lady boy.
I'm not lady. I lady boy.
Now some people believe that these 15-foot tall hermaphrodites, they may have been even evolved into lemurs that we have today. So you have 15-foot tall human beings that have penises and vaginas, and somehow they evolved into lemurs.
It's like how people depict Asians. As Asians get older, they get shorter.
FYI, he's half Asian. Just clarification.
I mean, my mom lost like an inch.
I think it's with all old people.
I mean,
they start shrinking, their ears get longer, their noses get longer, their skin starts drooping. It's all because of gravity, man.
Yeah, and the cartilage in like their spine and all that stuff, like it's already compressed for so long. You get shorter.
Have you seen that chiropractic video, that old lady laying on the table? And he's like, compound fracture. And then the chiropractor adjusts her and she's like, ow.
No, I saw the one guy that, like, he had back pain for so long. He went in there and he, like, moaned and groaned for, like, 10 minutes straight. And people were just like in the comments, yep, that's how he got his back messed up.
The old lady in the chiropractor video, the top comment was, he left her at 1 HP. Anyway.
Oh, good.
All right. So going forward, you had that belief of these 15-foot tall hermaphrodites that evolved into lemurs. And that was all through Blavatsky. Then you had Charles Ledbetter, who was a theosophist who claimed he had knowledge of Lemuria by astral clairvoyance, which is kind of like remote viewing, but you astral project your body and you're able to see past and future events.
Ooh.
Yeah. Then you have William Scott Elliott, and he joined in the conversation by elaborating on Blavatsky's vision of Lemuria. He wrote a book titled The Lost Lemuria in 1904.
And in Williams' book, he described the Lemurians as 15 feet tall, brown-skinned, and flat-faced with bird-like sideways vision. So they're same as they're both 15 feet tall, but now the description of them looks totally different. They were able to walk backwards and forward with similar ease and reproduce with eggs, like reptiles.
Sweet.
Nice.
Human eggs.
Now, the Lemurians, though, started to interbreed with animals in the local area, which eventually produced
illegal.
It's illegal. Back then, though, probably not. Which that eventually produced ape-like ancestors, leading to some of the human races. So, Lemurians with certain animals, certain primates, I guess, helped.
You ever see the movie The Island of Dr. Monroe?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind. That's what kind of happens in that movie. Yeah. Dr. Monroe lives on an island and he's running this experiment. I haven't watched the movie in a very long time. All I know is that there's these half human, half animals. Like there's a half human, half cheetah, half human, half hyena, half human, half boar. And he controls these creatures with like this shock thing that's in their, like on their rib. And you can press a button and it shocks them. So he pretty much rules over them. And then these animal/human hybrids figure out where that thing is and they are able to rip it out of themselves. And then they confront Dr. Monroe and then take over the island. So yeah. Spoiler alert.
Have you seen the show Sweet Tooth on Netflix?
No.
They weren't created. Something happened. And then half human, half animal people were being born.
Cool.
I've only seen like the first season. I think like a couple seasons have been out now. But that's what it just reminded me of.
Nice. All right. Well, continuing on with the conversation, another person who was a traveler and writer named Augustus Le Plongeon, he claimed that several ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians and Mesoamericans, they all came from refugees of the Mu civilization. Now, this idea of Mu appeared in Augustus Loop's, not Augustus Loop, just Augustus, his works after his investigations of the Mayan ruins in the Yucatan. He went over there, did a lot of investigation, and it was like, this is what happened.
Now, Augustus would claim that after translating some of the ancient Mayan writings, which showed that the Mayans of the Yucatan were much older than the civilizations of like Greece and Egypt. There was also one more thing that he found within the ancient writings, which told of a story of an even older continent.
Oddly enough, though, Augustus didn't come up with the name himself for the people of Lemuria. He got the name Mu from an individual named Charles Berceur de Bourbourg in 1864. Now, this was when Charles mistranslated the Madrid Codex, in which he used the Delanda alphabet. So he used the Delanda alphabet to translate the Madrid Codex, which mistranslated it and fucked everything up, but he took it as in he translated it correctly. And if you don't know what the Delanda alphabet is, it's pretty much made up of Spanish letters and glyphs that were created by the 16th century Bishop of Yucatan, Diego de Landa. And this alphabet is pretty inaccurate, but it did help later on. And we do have a photograph of some of the glyphs. We'll post up right here for everyone to take a look at. Very confusing.
Very weird looking.
Because you have like a HU or it's a KU, is a snowman with two heads. And then you have a fucking beehive, which is an O. And then you have half of a beehive, with bees around it, which is another O. And then you got an S, which is the letter N. And then you got a weird fucking question mark as the letter K.
You got X right there that looks like a bird watering something. And then beside that looks like one of those old cartoons with someone yelling with their mouth like wide open and tongues waving. I think that's like the M.
Oh my God. What if these weren't like their language? What if it wasn't their language? What if it was just kids being bored just drawing shit? That's what I always assume. It's just kids being fucking bored drawing shit. And we're over here trying to translate it, thinking, oh, it's something more deeper than what it is. In reality, it's just some kids drawing some fucking snowmen, or some beehives or some shit.
Or a bird watering something.
Yeah. Anyway.
Water bird.
That right there is the Delanda alphabet.
Yeah, I can see how you can mistranslate using that. But anyways, Charles believed that the word that he translated as Mu was referring to a land that was submerged by a catastrophic event. But Augustus would go on to say, in our journey westward across the Atlantic, we shall pass in sight of that spot where once existed the pride and the life of the ocean, the land of Mu, which at the epoch that we have been considering had not yet been visited by the wrath of Homan, the lord of volcanic fires whose fury it afterward fell a victim.
That's a lot of words.
I think he had like a seizure at the end of that when he was writing it.
Yeah.
Because it all sounded pretty good until it got to the end where just...
Huge run-on sentence.
Yeah.
So Augustus would go on to claim that the civilization of ancient Egypt was founded by Queen Mu, a refugee from the land's demise, the land of Mu. Then other refugees from that area had fled to Central America and became the Mayans.
It's very confusing when he says they go westward across the Atlantic. Was it westward? Yeah, westward across the Atlantic, which...
Because that's not where Lemuria was at.
That's where Atlantis would be, in the Atlantic.
Yeah, so you have Lemuria, Africa, Lemuria, Australia, and then you have...
North and South America.
Between North America
and Europe.
Europe is where Atlantis was supposedly located.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's claiming that...
Traveled westward across the
Atlantis.
Yeah. But he called it the land of Mu.
Weird.
Which is very odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last guy to document about the lost continent is James Churchward. James was an Anglo-American explorer who was actually a close friend of Augustus, who wanted to discover an ancient civilization of his own.
He got jealous. He's like, fuck, everybody's discovering ancient civilizations. I want to discover my own.
Hell yeah. He ended up using Augustus's way to set out to discover one, and his findings were written down in 5 main volumes of the Mu series, published from 1926 to 1931, which we go over those in Strange Facts and Findings.
So the basic premise of the findings that he discovered was by studying various ancient texts that he had found, discovering the existence of a long-lost continent with an advanced civilization that approximately 60,000 years earlier had sunk below the Pacific Ocean after a cataclysmic event. That is the most loudest fucking vehicle we've ever heard.
I'm gonna have to hook up a mic right behind us so y'all can hear what we hear, because you won't hear it in the recording.
Yeah, loud ass fucking.
Like you can still hear it.
You can still hear it, and it passed a little while back. All right. So James believed that 64 million people had died during this cataclysmic event, and that the Hawaiian Islands and the Pacific Islands are the remaining mountain peaks of this lost continent. And we do have some images to show you where the continent would be and where the Hawaiian Islands would be located on Lemuria. We'll post that up right here. And as you can see, you have Mu, MU, which is Lemuria, giant, fucking giant. And then you have North America, South America. Then you have Atlantis in between Europe and Africa.
Which, if you look at this map compared to the one before, the Lemuria is now in kind of a different spot, to where Australia is now on the left side of it when previously it was on the right.
Yeah.
Because it connected India, South Africa, and Australia.
Mm-hmm.
This one...
It was in the Indian Ocean. Now it's in the Pacific.
Yeah, so obviously there are 2 places for this one.
Yeah. And the next map we have is of Lemuria, and it's a close-up of it with Australia to the bottom left, and then you can see in the upper right of the continent of Lemuria, which is the land of Mu, you have the Hawaiian Islands, which was supposedly a big mountainous range, and after the continent sunk down, the mountains were so tall that they stayed up above, and that's what the Hawaiian Islands are. Basically, big-ass mountains of Lemuria.
Yeah, if you look at this map, like you can see Lemuria is like an overlay, and underneath where the Hawaiian Islands are, you can see the actual Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That is the concept of Lemuria being a lost continent, and the people discovering or, just talking about Lemuria. And now we're going to hop into strange facts and findings that we pretty much uncovered while researching this topic. Well, Aaron, would you like to start us off with the first strange fact and finding?
Yes, I would. So our first strange fact and finding is about the Great Flood. And this information was passed down by the Native Americans, supposedly. Now, Lemuria was located in the Indian and Pacific Ocean before the Great Flood occurred. It was approximately 14,000 years ago that the Lemurians started to receive information that the Earth was about to go through some sort of like a shift, aka a Great Flood. So there they were, right? Actually, let me back up. All this information is being told by the Native Americans. That's where they're getting this from. This information about a Great Flood and their perspective of Lemuria. What they're saying is that 14,000 years ago, the Lemurians were just chilling on their continent of Mu, aka Lemuria. And all of a sudden, a little birdie came along. Not an actual bird, just, a
lemur with wings.
They got information. Hey, a big shift is coming. Big ass fucking flood.
And this Great Flood is supposedly the same one that took out Atlantis in their eyes, but this Atlantis got taken out, a little later. But finding out that a shift would be occurring, the Lemurians began to prepare, and they had pretty much 2,000 to 3,000 years before that it would actually happen. So they had a shit ton of time to prep.
He said, hey, in 2,000 to 3,000 years, you're going to have something big happen. Be like, fucking cool. Come back in when it's 100 years.
Yeah, come back when it's, closer.
Yeah.
But 2,000 to 3,000 years prior to this happening, they decided to go spread their teachings all around the earth. So pretty much traveling across the land masses to India and all that such. And, they wanted to leave their mark on history or let people know hey, we existed, in case Lemuria did get wiped out. And they believed that doing so would leave their history in the cells of the human body.
So pretty much they were wanted to spread their teachings, leaving their
seed everywhere.
Cells of the human body, aka they're going to go impregnate as many people as they can around the world to spread their race.
That's what it honestly sounds like.
Nice. Now, another thing that the Native Americans said was, besides the Lemurians going around fucking, is that they began to learn to live underground, and they had to figure out how to survive down there. They would also learn how to store information on crystals, and that these crystals would be taken deep within the earth to be stored and preserved, while also creating detailed maps of the underground tunnels that were connected by power points within the earth.
Then a year before the Great Flood happened, the Lemurians had gotten assigned, and they were just all right.
Signed. You said assigned.
Assigned.
They were given a sign.
I combined the words.
Yeah.
ADHD.
They were assigned.
Assigned.
You were assigned a Great Flood.
Go underground.
No. This is supposed to happen 2,000 years from now.
You've been banished.
Go sit with the crystals.
Rub the crystals on the skin or it gets the flood again.
Oh, God.
All right. So then a year before the Great Flood happened, the Lemurians were given a sign and they all had to go underground. After the flood had happened and the water began to recede, people started to emerge back above ground from being underground. And this is what they supposedly say is the start of the Native American history.
They're Native Americans? Like Lemurians pretty much came up out of the ground like, hello, we came up out from underneath the ground. Hiawatha, we're Native Americans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, as weird as that sounds, most of the Native American people had lost this exact memory of this, but within the higher ranks, as the shamans, they are the ones that remember this knowledge and they pass it down. And this is all from the Native American perspective. So.
Wow. Okay. The more you know.
Now, if you are a Native American shaman out there, can you email us and verify this information?
Yeah. Does this fall under all Native Americans? That's what they're saying?
It just states Native Americans.
Okay. All right. So moving on, let's talk about the volumes of Mu, which is our next strange fact and finding. So we discussed how Churchward, he wrote a lot of books, like a book series, the volumes of Mu. And there were a total of 5 different volumes that he had wrote. and each one contained different parts of his journey and discoveries. And we're going to tell you pretty much what each volume consisted of.
All right. So volume 1, titled The Lost Continent of Mu, set out, Churchward's theory utilizing a vast knowledge of science, ancient art and history, mythology, and the occult to recreate the splendor and doom of this hidden world.
Lemuria, or aka Mu, was about 5,000 miles long and about 3,000 miles wide. Size of my ding dong. The Garden of Eden was not in Asia, but on a now sunken continent in the Pacific Ocean. The biblical story of creation came first not from the peoples of the Nile or the Euphrates Valley, but from this now submerged continent, Mu, aka the motherland of man.
Then you have volume number 2, which is The Children of Mu, which is the story of the pioneers of Mu. 63 million people lived on the lost continent of Mu over 200,000 years ago. The children of Mu became the most influential people on Earth. They had an incredibly sophisticated government, flowering culture, and scientific technology.
Much of the Lemurian civilization lived in homes with transparent roofs. They built shelters, made clothing, food, and their own tools. They were free from stress and disease, and they lived in peace for hundreds of years. They had psychic abilities that were highly developed. They could speak to each other with their minds. They could astral travel and teleport, which made traditional communication devices unnecessary. They could just be like, fuck you, if they wanted to, just with their mind.
They took FaceTime literally.
Yes.
Teleport right into your face. Hey.
Yeah. They're like, hey, you want to come over? Yeah, I'll be right there. And they floop, just teleport. Shit was crazy.
They didn't give them time to prep.
Yeah. They were also primarily vegetarians, and they had a big organic culture that was big into like agriculture and the outdoors, and they worked in harmony with nature and the land to live prosperous lives. And that was volume 2 and what it details. This episode is sponsored by Shopify. Dan, what was our website like years ago before we switched to Shopify?
Plain basic and pretty much failed a lot.
Yeah, it was overloaded. Our site used to not update all the time. It used to crash. And then we were looking for a solution for the longest time, and we decided to switch our website to Shopify. And how has it been running ever since?
It's been running smooth, super easy to use, had no issues whatsoever with it.
Yeah, extremely easy to use. It's just a drag and drop template. Anyone could use Shopify to make a website.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. They are the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Super easy to use, super easy to check out.
Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that we use.
Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/theories, all lowercase.
Go to shopify.com/theories to upgrade your selling today.
Shopify.com/theories. They didn't have no meat? Come on.
So volume 1 is pretty much the theory and how big Lemuria or the land of Mu was. And then it talks about the biblical story of it. Then you got volume 2, which is how
they lived in
their beginning of the civilization, and then the children, how they had influence, and then how they lived and everything. Now tell us about volume 3.
All right. So volume 3, the sacred symbols of Mu, which this volume talks about the occult origins of ancient and modern religions. All religions have a common origin in the sacred inspired writings of Mu. The Lord's Prayer is to be found in the sacred inspired writings of Mu, which evidence of the Mu religion dates back to 170,000 years ago. That's a long time.
These teachings were taught by Osiris, Moses, and Jesus. Moses condensed the 42 questions of the Osirian religion into the 10 Commandments. Jesus condensed the text to suit the language of his day. And the last words of Jesus on the cross were supposedly in the language of Mu, unknown, in Palestine. I have no idea what the fuck that means. That was in the book. We don't know what it means. Supposedly they knew what the last words of Jesus was, but this volume 3 is pretty much talking about religion and how it all came from Lemuria, aka the land of Mu.
So they're trying to say that he said something in a different language that no one understood.
Except them.
Except them.
But they won't tell you what it is. It's unknown.
Then we go on to volume number 4, which is the cosmic forces of Mu, which is the biological evolution, which is a myth. There is no such thing as atomic force. All diseases can be conquered by using appropriately colored light rays. The Earth's temperature and seasons are pretty much set in stone. Nothing changes. They are in their fixed present state, and that the Earth cannot be hurled off into space or drawn into the sun. So, no gravity? Or gravity in space?
Well, that would not make sense because the sun, gravitational pull.
We orbit the sun.
We orbit the sun, which then orbits the black hole in the center of our galaxy. Huh. Okay. Odd.
I mean, considering that the seasons do change.
Yeah. You're wrong, Land of Mu.
Unless just in the Land of Mu, where they were positioned, they're like right on the equator or around it, so their season's the same no matter what, maybe?
I guess. I don't know. But let's talk about the last book, volume number 5 from Churchward. Now, this volume number 5 book is the second book of the Cosmic Forces of Mu. Churchward continues to draw conclusions from the ancient documents and lore of Mu to present some startling revisionist theories about the age of Earth and how old it is, the nature of mountains and volcanic processes, and he talks about the Ice Age and the floods. And all this information, these 5 volumes, is pretty much Churchward's write-out of his supposed discovery of this ancient civilization and continent. And he breaks it down to easy, digestible reading.
Then those books are on Amazon if you want to buy them.
Yeah.
Supposedly, for like $20 or less each.
All right, so that right there are the 5 volumes. And now we're going to get into our next strange fact and finding, which is a deeper dive into the religion of Mu, or the Mu's religion, the Lemurians' religion, and what they believed.
So the first records of religion are more than 70,000 years old, and they talk about a body of trained masters from Mu called Knuckles.
Oh, what?
Knuckles.
Okay.
Naacals.
Knuckles.
That is how I heard it pronounced when I looked it up.
So they had some masters that they called Knuckles.
Yeah.
Where my Knuckles at?
Yeah, and these masters of Mu, the Knuckles, they traveled around carrying copies of the motherland's sacred inspired religion, their texts, and the teachings from this were called the sacred mysteries, which were entrusted only to high priesthood beings and the heirs to the throne, which is very interesting. So I guess you had to be of high status to actually get your hands on the actually sacred mysteries texts.
And it was taught in different sections. Like they didn't just teach you all the religion at once. You had to go through sections. And that's just like Scientology. The higher up texts, or these ancient texts of the Scientology, is only accessible through higher up people. And it's taught, Scientology is taught in sections. You have to work your way up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyways.
Let's go through the stages.
Yeah, let's talk about the stages of this religion that's being taught by these Knuckles. So the first stage is that man was taught that there was a supreme being, infinite and all-powerful, that it was the creator who created all things above and below, that man was created by this almighty being, and having been created by him with his son, that this almighty was man's heavenly father. It's pretty much what all religions believe.
Yeah.
You got an almighty being that created us.
Now, the second stage, when man was created, the creator placed within the body of man a spirit or soul which never died but continued on through eternity.
And then you had the third stage. When man was created, it was ordained that his material body should return to earth from which it was taken. When this material body died, it released the soul which went into the world beyond, there to wait until it was called upon to occupy another material body.
Then when the person could grasp these facts, they were taught that their soul was given a task. This task was for the soul to rule the material body by overcoming material desires.
And when this was accomplished, his soul would be called back to the greater source and forever afterwards live in perfect joy and happiness. Now, they were also taught that one material life was so short that the soul could not overcome all the material desires, so it was ordained that their soul come into many bodies until the task was completed, and that these reincarnations were the salvation of their soul. So pretty much, they had to keep being born again into this material body, this flesh, until they overcome the material desires of the world, and then after that, they can live in perfect peace and harmony.
So one playthrough of life was not enough.
You had to do it multiple times. You had to suffer. You had to endure.
If you want to get that 100% playthrough run, you have to do it multiple times. Now, the fourth stage, it was thoroughly instilled into their mind that the Heavenly Father was the great love and that this great love ruled the universe and never died. They were taught that the love of the Heavenly Father was far greater than the love of his earthly father, who was only a reflection of his Heavenly Father. Do you understand that at all?
Fuck no.
Therefore, he should always approach his Heavenly Father without fear or dread and in perfect confidence and love.
Cool.
Okay.
So let's talk about the fifth stage. They were then taught that all mankind were created by the same Heavenly Father. Therefore, all mankind were his brothers and sisters.
Brother.
And should be treated as such in all his dealings with them. Kind of reminds me of Joe Dirt. You're my sister. You're my sister.
Would it be better if I go back to being your sister? Hell no. You're my sister. Oh, gosh. Then we have the sixth stage, the last one of them all, which they were taught their duties on earth, how they should live to prepare themselves to become fit to pass into the world beyond when they were called. They were especially reminded that they must follow the paths of truth, love, chastity, and charity, with perfect love and confidence in his Heavenly Father. And those right there are the 6 stages of the teachings of the supposed Mu or first religion of mankind.
Seems like basic religion stuff. You know, all the basic teachings of every religion.
I mean, honestly, it does.
All right, well, let's go on to our next strange fact and finding, which is about Easter Island. So on Easter Island, there's some big-ass fucking statues that are 15 foot tall, made out of stone. They're big.
Very big.
Yeah. Now, many believe that these big-ass statues on Easter Island are that of the Lemurians, since the Lemurians were said to be 15 feet tall. Now, the written language on them, or involving them, point to an advanced culture, supposedly. The legend of Easter Island speaks of Hiva, which sank beneath the waves as people fled, referring to the Great Flood and the continent sinking, which people assume that they were talking about either Lemuria, aka the land of Mu, or Atlantis. Regardless, they're saying that these statues on Easter Island are depictions of the ancient Lemurians, or the Mu people. Same thing. Good way to check to see if they are. Do they have a penis and a vagina?
They have to dig deep for those.
Yeah.
Which, never mind.
Okay.
I was going to say, I mean, they're pretty tall. They're brown-skinned.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Moana.
So the next strange fact I'm finding is about what has been passed down by the Samoans and the Maori people of New Zealand. Now, the Samoans, they also had a similar story about a, continent like Lemuria, but they call it Balutu. Now, I could not find the pronunciation of that. So if you're Samoan and I said it wrong, you can correct me. I'm sorry. But that's how I'm going to say it till someone corrects me. Now, this place, Balutu, was stocked with trees, plants. They were bearing fruits and flowers, which were immediately replaced when picked. So they replenished right after you picked them. Yeah.
Like instantaneously.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not just that. On this, continent, men, pretty much humans, could walk through trees, houses, and other physical objects without any resistance.
Now, hold on. It clearly states men.
It says men, but I'm thinking they're trying to say like mankind. Oh, just men?
Yeah.
Men
women.
have the power.
They didn't walk through no trees and houses.
They
Only
tried
men
to,
did.
and they just hit it.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, so I'm guessing on this continent, they were like more of a astral being,
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Which makes sense if you pick a fruit and it just automatically replenishes, or a flower.
True.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Maoris, aka the Mike Lowry people, as I like to call them. Mike Lowry.
Bunny love.
So the Maoris, when they talk about their past, they still talk about arriving long ago from a sinking island called Hawaii or something like that.
Hawaii.
And this island had a vast mountainous area on the other side of the water, meaning ocean. So many people believe that the Maoris, Mike Lowry, they're talking about either Lemuria, aka the land of Mu, or Atlantis.
More than likely for the Maoris, it'd be Lemuria, since
the location of where they're at.
Pacific Ocean area.
Yeah.
All right, so this next strange fact and finding is about Mount Shasta in California. So it's to be believed that some Lemurians escaped before their continent sank into the ocean and sought refuge in Mount Shasta, eventually establishing a 5-level city of light called Telos inside the mountain, which these Lemurians are said to be 7 feet tall beings who wear white robes and communicate through crystals, spreading messages of love and unity.
Now, some people believe that there is a door to Telos somewhere on the surface of Mount Shasta. They believe that Pluto's cave, which is a partially collapsed lava tube near the base of the mountain, they believe that that might be the entrance. But there's a prevailing theory these days that the door is not a physical one. Instead, it's a metaphysical one that can only be found by people who the Lemurians invite in. They're just sitting there on the other side of that door. They're looking at people coming up thinking, what a bunch of dumbasses.
We're like a bunch of vampires. Can I come in? No.
Yeah, nope, you ain't coming in. And they're like, wait, is that a Mike Lowry? Let him in.
Oh, Mike Lowry. That one's Bunny Love.
Yeah. Also, if you walk around the city's main streets, you'll find a number of crystal shops that sell Lemurian quartz crystals. These crystals mostly come from South America, and they are believed to be encoded with messages of unity, supposedly.
So I'm guessing if you walk the city's main streets, like actually just in California, all those crystal shops and such, they'll sell the Lemurian quartz crystals. And I guess
if they're legit ones, they have messages in them.
But how do you see those messages?
You got to learn how to read crystals. You got to go out during the full moon, and then you take the crystal and you stick it in your mouth and you pull it out, and then you got to find out a way to access the information. Maybe it's the same way that you read letters, by sticking them up your ass. You can read letters by sticking them up there, and your body absorbs the ink, and you're like, okay.
You think they use ink on crystals?
No, they etch the information in the crystal, and you stick it up your butt, Dan, and then that's how you read the information.
Ah.
Or maybe there's a crystal reader, kind of like a
light thing, and they just put the crystal on it,
and it pops up like, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope.
Exactly.
Yeah. Instead, you're going to see some 15-foot tall beings with dicks, balls, and vaginas.
Great flood.
Great flood's coming in 2,000 to 3,000 years, brother. Hot in the mountains.
They're turning the flood on.
There's a metaphysical door. Okay, don't let anyone in.
I don't know. I hear that metaphysical door being Pluto's cave, which is a partially collapsed lava tube.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like something I don't want to go through.
No. They just need to drill a big old hole in that mountain.
Or they have those things that they shoot into the ground. They just shoot it sideways to where it can take pictures of. Surrounding, kind of like a picture, like an x-ray. It shoots down in there and they do like an x-ray.
You're going to expose all the Lemurians inside there to
radiation.
They're going to get lethal doses.
I mean, they're probably getting radiation from the Earth's core anyways.
Everybody is.
Yeah, everybody is. They're just getting a little bit more since they're probably closer.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this last strange fact and finding.
All right, so this last strange fact and finding is about some findings back in 2013. So like we said earlier, scientists have found evidence of a drowned microcontinent in sand grains from the beaches of a small Indian Ocean island. So this Indian Ocean island is Mauritius, which is a well-known tourist destination. And it is located about 1,200 miles or 2,000 kilometers off the coast of Africa, east of Madagascar. And scientists think that the tiny island formed some 9 million years ago from cooling lava, which spewed by undersea volcanoes.
Okay. But recently, researchers have found sand grains on Mauritius that contain fragments of the mineral zircon.
Sultan.
that are far older than the island. It's between 660 million to about 2 billion years old.
Damn.
The old bitch. Now, in a study in the journal Nature Geoscience, scientists concluded that the older minerals once belonged to a now vanished landmass, and tiny bits of which were dragged up to the surface during the formation of Mauritius.
Furthermore, based on a recalculation of how the ancient continents drifted apart, the scientists concluded that Mauritius was once a tiny part of a much larger supercontinent that included India and Madagascar called Rodinia. So a different name. So yeah, they're finding evidence of a larger landmass that had supposedly been submerged, sunk, or whatever. And with the creation of Mauritius, with the lavas flowing up from the underground or undersea volcanoes, it brought pretty much the zircon minerals and all that shit from the bottom up to the top, mixing in with Mauritius.
Okay.
So, very interesting.
Science.
So
that right there is our last strange fact and finding, which leads us to our theories. And now we're going to talk about all the juicy theories surrounding Lemuria, aka the land of Mu. So the very first theory that we're going to talk about is called existed. So this theory states that Lemuria did exist. It existed millions or billions of years ago, and some type of cataclysmic event occurred and caused the continent to be destroyed or submerged underwater. The survivors of this continent were able to make it to different parts of the world, and as they pretty much spread out, they scattered evidence of the existence of their lost continent throughout the world. And these little breadcrumbs of their existence of this continent were pretty much found by these explorers like Churchward, Blavatsky, all of them, and they wrote about them. And that's how we are aware of them. That is the first theory.
Okay. I mean, it'd be pretty cool if it did exist.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's where lemurs come from.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be this second theory, which is the most popular choice for the theories, which is called plate tectonics. This theory is that a continent cannot just disappear into the ocean with pretty much no signs whatsoever. Considering that there are multiple layers of rock that are kilometers thick, an island cannot just disappear in there. These rocks would have to shift all over the place just for this island to pretty much sneak into the other plates to hide. But they weren't far off, with India and Madagascar breaking off from a bigger continent, though. But they said it wasn't Lemuria. This was supposedly called Mauritius, and it happened about 84 million years ago, and it wasn't caused by an overnight cataclysmic event. This happened over many years, millions of years probably, for these land masses to drift apart.
So this theory is pretty much that Lemuria didn't exist, and that's because if it did exist, you would find
there would be more evidence.
But it couldn't have existed because the main theory is that it was submerged, and it couldn't have submerged because of the way plate tectonics work on Earth.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, with how big Lemuria is, there had to be more evidence, like physical evidence, they said.
Maybe that's where the aliens are chilling.
That is a theory.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about our next theory, which is called religious tool. This theory states that Churchward and others tied Lemuria to the Bible. They would cite it as the Garden of Eden or the birthplace of biblical figures like Moses. Then, with the beliefs of the Lemurians, not disappearing when the landmass was submerged because somehow they were able to make their way to California in Mount Shasta. You have that belief as well. That there's a place called Lemuria in California, which was founded by a religious group in 1936. They embraced the supposed teachings of the civilization of Mu, aka Lemuria, and many of the ideas put forward by Miss Blavatsky, like human spiritual evolution and karma. So pretty much this theory is that I really wouldn't say that Lemuria didn't really exist. Well, Lemuria didn't exist, but it was used as a tool for control via religion.
The one religion to rule them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's where they say the first religion, the original religion of mankind came from Lemuria. And we talked about the 6 stages of it.
Maybe they were trying to create their own religion. Churchward and all the other ones that originally brought this up in the 1800s to early 1900s. Churchward wrote his book in what, 1908? Blavatsky in 1888.
Churchward was like 1926 to 1931, I believe it was.
Yeah, somebody wrote something in 1908, though. I can't remember.
Charles Brashear, I believe. 1904.
Okay. But yeah. So maybe they all just got together and were like, hey, let's push this religion. And they were able to make Lemuria, California, start a small religious group in 1936 that were based off the teachings of Blavatsky and Lemuria. Maybe that was the whole purpose, and Lemuria never existed. They just wanted to use it as control. Or maybe for clout. Maybe it was just a way for them to just say, hey, we're important. We discovered a civilization or an ancient civilization. Buy my book or read about my teachings or follow my ways.
Oh, yeah. Charles did want to go find a civilization of his own.
Mm-hmm.
And with the help of Augustus's own works of finding the land of Mu, which sounds like he was talking about Atlantis mostly, Charles decided that, I discovered Lemuria. Or it could be this one theory, aliens. The government's throwing us off with this outlandish Lemuria, the people, the 15 feet tall people and all that. But in fact, Lemuria did exist and that it did sink, and that's where the aliens are now.
Yeah. So back in the day, the government or the leaders of the world discovered that, hey, down inside of our oceans, there is a race of aliens, and we cannot allow individuals to search that area. So instead, we are going to create this outlandish theory that there was once a lost continent submerged. There was once a lost continent, and it was submerged, and this lost continent had an ancient civilization, aka Atlantis, or Lemuria, aka the land of Mu. And we'll use this to make people think, oh, that's a crazy theory. Nothing could exist in our oceans, as a way to cover up the fact that something does exist in our oceans.
With the fact they talk about how advanced their technology was and everything. How the hell did they not get away from this cataclysmic event?
Yeah. What, are you going to go hide in a mountain? What the fuck?
Nope. Lemuria is literally just a landmass or pretty much a continent underwater, and this is where the aliens live. And all those drones and stuff that come out are the aliens coming out and checking up on us. It's like Fallout. They're coming up and checking, seeing if it's safe enough to come live on the surface, which obviously it's not.
Yeah.
People are going crazy up here, assassinating CEOs.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of that, we talk about that on our premium episode.
Yep.
The assassination of United Healthcare CEO, which, by the way, I got some more information. I found out there was engravings in the shell casings. Deny,
dispose, and shell casings at the scene had deny, defend, and depose, DEPOSE, written on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was a targeted attack, like we said. But we talk more about that on our premium episode. If you want, go sign up. Sign up for $6.66 for audio or $9.99 for video. And we talk about that and UAPs and my own personal experience with the UAP that I recorded on video. And I got some weird footage.
You got abducted and then probed.
No, not abducted and probe. I've just witnessed something weird as fuck, and I got it all on video. All right. So do we have anything else more we want to talk about? Want to talk about our own personal thoughts and theories behind this? Do you think that Lemuria did exist, this ancient land of Mu? Or do you think it was all just made up?
I'd like to believe it's true, but just not enough evidence for me to be like, yeah, it was there. But the idea, the concept of it's pretty cool that there wasn't a continent there, and I don't know about it being taken out overnight by like a cataclysmic event. You know, maybe over time it did, actually shift and just get flooded. But
yeah. Okay. I'm going to have to go with
aliens.
The continent never existed. I mean, you take all the other continents and you shift them and they all fit in perfectly together into one big landmass. And then you take it over 100,000s of years, them shifting apart. So it's like a big puzzle piece with their current continents, and there's no room for Lemuria. There's nowhere for it to fit. So that's what I'm going with. It never existed. That Blavatsky, no disrespect, Churchward, Augustus, all their writings, it's just made up for clout. They followed off of each other's writings, piggybacked, and just expanded on them.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's what I'm going with.
I mean, like I said, I'd like to believe that it was really, real, but.
Yeah. Well, if you or a loved one lived on Lemuria or the land of Mu, and you have stories to tell us, or you can lay eggs, or you are a hermaphrodite, Dan would like an email from you.
Or if your past life was Lemurian or Atlantean.
Yeah, send us an email. We would love to hear from you.
That's right.
But with that being said, that is the end of our episode today. I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for all of your love and support. Without you, we could not do this.
That's right. Much love.
So with that being said, Dan, would you like to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.
I'm from Mu.
Are you the CEO of Lemuria?